In this video, we'll be reviewing for your Chapter 5 test on polynomials. This video will focus on the first topics that were covered. So the first topic that was covered in 5.1 was laws of exponents. So when you multiply, you add the exponent. So on question 1, I'm going to start by multiplying the coefficients. So negative 3 times negative 2 equals positive 6. Then I'm going to add the exponent. So for A, I'm adding 3 with an imaginary 1. That comes out to a to the 4th. And for B, I'm adding negative 5 with 3. That comes out to negative 2. Now, something else that we had learned was when you have negative exponents, they're really not doing anything negative. What they're doing is they're taking the reciprocal. So when you get a negative exponent, you're going to rewrite your final answer as a fraction. And you're going to move the variable with the negative exponent to the denominator so that it becomes positive. Everything else will stay on top. Question 2 is a division problem. When you're dividing, you subtract the exponents. So I'm going to begin with the coefficients. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Then for x, we're doing 6 minus 2. That comes out to 4. For y, we're doing 1 minus 4. That comes out to negative 3. And then just like in the last problem, we don't want a negative exponent. So I'm going to rewrite my final answer as a fraction. And I'm going to move the y to the denominator so that that exponent becomes positive. Everything else will stay on top. Question 3, we have a power of a power. I'm going to begin by rewriting this so everything is to the third power. So I'm going to start with negative 3 to the third power. That means we're doing negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. This becomes 9 times negative 3, or negative 27. Here, when you have a power of a power, you multiply your exponent. So 4 times 3 is 12. So that's going to become m to the 12. And for n, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. So I get n to the negative 6. From there, I'm going to check I have a negative exponent. The n has a negative exponent. So I'm going to rewrite my final answer as a fraction. N moves to the bottom, and the exponent becomes a positive 6. Everything else stays on top. So notice it's okay to have the negative 27. Your coefficients, you leave them alone. It's just negative exponents that you don't want. So to summarize, when you multiply, you add exponents. When you divide, you subtract exponents. And when you have an exponent of an exponent, you multiply. If you have a negative exponent, write your answer as a fraction. And move that term to the bottom, or to the denominator. Something else that we covered and that you learned in Algebra 1 was just simplifying regular expressions. So this problem here, the first one's a subtraction problem. So it's like there's an imaginary 1 here. So we're going to have to actually give out that negative 1. What's going to happen is the signs change. So here I have 8x minus 5x squared. But if I do negative 1 times 3, that becomes a negative 3. And if I do negative 1 times negative 9x squared, that becomes positive 9x squared. So my signs change. Now I would combine like terms. So if I combine negative 5x squared with 9x squared, that comes out to 4x squared. So my answer is going to be 4x squared plus 8x minus 3. In number 2, this is a multiplication problem. So I'm going to start by distributing 3x times 4x. That comes out to 12x squared. Then 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. 5 times 4x is positive 20x. And 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And now I'll combine like terms. These terms in the middle are alike. So negative 6x plus 20x will be positive 14x. Everything else stays the same. Another topic that we covered was dividing polynomials. We learned two methods, long division and synthetic. This slide here just kind of gives a rundown of synthetic. I use this slide in the notes that you can refer to. So on this problem, it says to solve using either long division or synthetic. I'll review both. When you do your test, you choose the method of your choice. So in both methods, you want to make sure they don't skip any terms. So here we have 3x cubed. Usually after 3x cubed would be an x squared. Here they skipped an x squared, so I'm going to use a 0x squared in its place. Then the 2x, then the minus 1. So it's the same problem. I just rewrote it so that they're not skipping any terms. Now one method that we learned was long division. If you use long division, you write out your problem as a long division problem. And then when you're dividing, you divide the first terms. So I'm going to do 3x cubed divided by x. That comes out to 3x squared. That's going to be part of my answer. And then I multiply that times the x plus 2. That comes out to 3x cubed plus 6x squared. When you write this underneath your long division, you want to subtract. So since you're subtracting, you're going to change the signs. So it becomes negative 3x cubed and negative 6x squared. So now I'm going to bring down my 2x and I repeat. So now I'm dividing negative 6x squared by x. That comes out to negative 6x. This is part of my answer, so I put it on top. And then I'm going to multiply that by the x plus 2. Remember, when you write it underneath, you're going to change signs. So here I get 14x. And now I'm going to bring down my 1 and I'm going to repeat these steps one more time. So now I'm going to divide 14x by x. Here my x's cancel, so I just get 14. And then 14 times x plus 2 will be 14x plus 28. When I write it underneath here, I change signs. And this last number here is our remainder. So your remainder, you're going to write in your answer, but as a fraction. So I have minus 29, and I'm going to put that over the x plus 2 that we were dividing by in the original problem. The other method we learned is a lot faster. That's synthetic division. In synthetic division, you set up a little L, and then this number here goes inside, but we change signs. So instead of positive 2, it's going to change to a negative 2. And then you put the coefficients in there, 3, 0, 2, negative 1. From here, it's easy. So we're going to bring down the first term. Whatever we get down here, we're going to multiply by the negative 2. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Then 0 minus 6 is negative 6. And I repeat, negative 6 times negative 2 is positive 12. 2 plus 12 is 14. And then 14 times negative 2 is negative 28. So if I combine those, I get negative 29. Again, this last term is our remainder. So now I'm ready to write my answer. Our original problem started with x to the third. When you use synthetic, your answer is going to start one lower. So instead of x to the third, it's going to be x squared. So we have 3x squared, then minus 6x plus 14. The minus 21 is still going to go in our answer, but since it's a remainder, we write it as a fraction. And then whatever we were dividing by goes in the bottom. So the x plus 2 from the original problem goes in the denominator. And then something else that we covered in one of our topics was standard form, degree, and leading coefficient. Standard form means to organize from highest to lowest exponent. Degree is the highest exponent. And then leading coefficient is the number in front of the term with the highest exponent. So here I'm going to reorganize this from highest exponent to lowest. So 3x to the 8 would be the highest exponent. Next would be 2x to the 5th. Then positive 5x cubed. Then negative 7. So this is in standard form. Our degree is the highest exponent. So that would be an 8. And your leading coefficient is number in front of the term with highest exponent. So here that would be the 3. Problem 2, I'm going to make it in standard form. So the highest exponent's x to the 4th. So it would be negative 7x to the 4th. Then minus 3x cubed. Then positive 4x squared. Then the constant plus 2. Here the degree would be the 4 then. That's the highest exponent. And the number in front, negative 7, would be the leading coefficient.